You've done everything right. Worked hard, built your portfolio, paid off your house, and now you're 65. You've been managing your money on your own for decades, and let's be honest, it's gone pretty well. But down deep, you're starting to wonder, am I missing something? Don't worry, we won't tell your way. Today, we're talking about why even the smartest DIY investors are realizing that professional advice isn't a weakness, it's wisdom. All right, everyone, thanks for listening today. We have a special guest back, Mr. Dave Abate. Dave, how you doing today, bud?
Well, excited to be here, Derek.
You make it sound so believable every single time, and I really appreciate that.
Of course.
So yeah, we're kicking around different topic ideas, and the topic of do-it-yourself investing always seems to come up and come around. Whether we're talking to people out there who are not working with the firm, or talking with clients who have friends that are doing it on their own, and it's a very interesting topic, honestly. It's kind of like the Andrew Barry in the Cleveland Browns. Like, he actually had a good draft this year. Did he do it completely by accident? We don't know, but probably.
Yeah, it's like every 6 draft classes you have to hit a couple.
Exactly.
Right? It's just the law of averages.
Yep. So yeah, it's I think probably the main point that we'll try to get across here is that there's a lot more to planning for your retirement than just eking out every single percentage point that you can on your gains, and I think also it's not necessarily about preventing disaster. It's more, obviously that's a goal, but it is more breaking bad habits, maybe that if you've been doing it yourself for a long time, that could lull you into kind of like a false sense of security almost.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's almost like the seasons of life, right? It's like you start off and maybe you have all the energy in the world to kind of take this task on of building your portfolio yourself and managing your finances, and that's all well and good. Like, especially when you're younger, life's a lot simpler, yep. Right? You're kind of in the accumulation mode. Like, long story short is like the more you save, the better off you're going to be, kind of thing. So if you have a reasonable investment strategy and it allows you to kind of keep pace with inflation, like, you're going to put yourself in a pretty good spot in the future.
Yep.
But then life kind of unfolds and things change. So I think that's where the opportunity comes up, where people maybe have a hard time transitioning. Like, hey, I'm used to like driving on the highway and there's really like no braking and I'm going one speed the whole time, and now I'm kind of getting close to the exit ramp and I got to make some changes here traffic wise.
Yep, for sure. And we can kind of get into it here. Some of the issues that I've just seen over the years from DIY investors, and we'll mention it again. It's kind of it's called behavioral finance in the academic world, which I always find like a fascinating topic. Why do people make the decisions that they do? And let's be honest, you turn on the TV and it's full of green, and you're like, man, what did I miss? What did I miss? Right? And you turn it on and it's full of red, and you're like, look, I told you so, right? So it's not a short-term proposition. We're looking to build out a portfolio that's going to stand up against the good times and the bad, and most importantly, kind of meet the goals that you need to hit to have the retirement that you want.
Yeah, absolutely, Derek. We've hit on it so many times. Like, investing itself, it's just not intuitive, right? We kind of get excited at the wrong times and scared at the wrong times in terms of the opportunity ahead. But the angle that I even see, like keeping investments outside of the discussion is really the tax planning part. Like, that's, to me, the biggest opportunity, is to control the controllables.
Right.
So it's kind of like, hey, I'm transitioning from my working years to my retirement years. Like, how do I build that retirement paycheck that's going to get me through while I no longer have that income stream happening? Like, there's so much opportunity in that spot. Like, that's I think where when I talk to people and clients I see come through the doors, like, that's the one that's kind of scaring them. Like, am I leaving dollars on the table?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's and it's something that you can, like you said, it's a tangible thing that you can plan for, right? We don't. We're sitting here today. We don't know when the next market crash is going to be. We don't know the exact date. So that is tough to predict. Obviously, there's things we can do in the portfolio to help cushion that. But tax issues, especially long-term tax planning, which is what we always talk about here, is really going to be tangible, right? You can look at it. You can say, okay, here's what we're projecting, and here are the tangible steps that we can take to save ourselves actual dollars in our account. That also doesn't go into like the bottom line return report, right? So you can make a series of Roth conversions over 7 years and save yourself $75,000 in future taxes. That doesn't show up in your statement, right? But you've made good choices to help out your plan.
Absolutely. And there's research out there. We've probably talked about this one too much, but if you optimize, like, it's called like your distribution strategy, right? If you optimize the sequence of which accounts you're drawing from when, depending on the tax situation that the studies show you can have your money last up to 20% longer. Mm-hmm. So think about, like, if right now, like, just default, it's going to last 20 years, you're talking about 24 years now. You're buying yourself 4 more years of retirement solvency. That's a big deal. Yep,
absolutely. And I think that's one of the main pieces that gets a little different when you get towards retirement is really the income. Where is it coming from? And like you just said, how is it taxed? If you're not 65, maybe you're younger, maybe you're 55. Tax savings strategies are important, right? We've kind of just been told our whole life, hey, just save all your money into your 401k, right? And many people aren't saving more than the whatever it's up to now, $27,000 or whatever you can put in annually into the plan. You don't necessarily just have to slam every single last dollar into that 401k, right? There's a new rule that we talked about where the catch-up provision isn't allowed to go in anymore into the traditional if you make over a certain threshold. So a Roth might be an option for you. A lot of people ask me questions on, hey, should I be saving into my 401k traditional side or the Roth side? That's not something that I can just answer. It's got to be kind of based on your specific situation. But I think, if you're not approaching retirement and you're a little bit younger, give some serious thought into how you're saving. It doesn't necessarily need to be all in the traditional side. And that's really where long-term tax planning comes in.
And Derek, you're kind of like unpacking some really important things, and you're also shedding light on how complex this stuff gets, right? Mm-hmm. And the other thing that we see a lot of times is when we're talking with folks is when we're sitting down, with a couple, we're kind of getting to know them a little bit, and what we find out a lot of times is even if one of the partners is super engaged and they've got this down pat and they know all this stuff inside and out and they're following all the tax law changes, typically what we see is like one person's super engaged and the other person is just not their thing,
right?
Not their cup of tea. Like, this is not my lane. Joe figures all this stuff out for us. Well, that's great, but what ends up happening is like the light bulb goes off in Joe's head, and it's like, hey, like Mary doesn't really care about this stuff. Like I need to kind of find someone where if I'm not around, or my mental faculties start to decline, like who's going to help us out? Like we need to get partnered up with that guide sooner rather than later.
Absolutely. And we've been doing this for a little bit now, and that's the conversation I have time and time again. It's and it's not always the husband that takes over, but it takes over the finances, I should say. But it honestly usually is. And that is the conversation. It's like, hey, it's we kind of split up the jobs, and this one was mine, and if something happens to me, I need to make sure that my spouse knows what's going on and has someone that can help them out, and that is a huge thing. I think whether it's the planning or the investments or it's just nice to have someone that can help you through those things.
For sure. And so as we work together and we kind of figure this stuff out, the other like silver lining, I'll call it, like byproduct, where these a lot of these DIY folks, like they really get a benefit, is in order to put yourself in a position where you are ready for retirement, like usually you're really good at saving, right? You might be decent at investing, but you're really good at saving, like having that budget worked out. And what we find is in that transition from accumulation or your working years into retirement, there's really like a hesitation, or there's a self-control about like actually letting yourself spend the money now, like now that you're not working any longer. And what we help clients do is kind of understand how much cushion or how much room there is in their budget to give themselves permission to spend. Like you've accumulated this nest egg. It's here to support you during your retirement years and enjoy the lifestyle that you've earned and built. We can now give you permission for here's what the numbers say. Like you have another $15,000 a year to play with. Knock yourself out.
Absolutely. And I have that conversation quite a bit too. But yeah, it's difficult to go from saving your whole life into spending and spending freely, right? Like you said, it's you have to be good at saving to get into that position. So it's a difficult transition, and that's we always offer like a second opinion on your overall situation. That's kind of I'm sure a lot of advisors throw that out there, but So if you are in that boat and you do need a second opinion, please don't hesitate to reach out. But kind of my point on this is I've handed out a lot of second opinions through the years, and I don't think I've ever once told someone like, "Hey, man, you're doing great. you don't need me at all or us, right?" And that's not a knock on anyone. It's just it's not their full-time job. It's not their area of expertise. There's an unfortunate problem in this industry where people think they can kind of go on the internet and get the right answer, but what they really just get is a bunch of advertisements for financial products or financial advisors, whatever the case may be. So in that regards, it becomes very difficult to kind of seek out the right answer. If you're buying a car, you can probably go online, get some opinions, get reports, and probably make an informed decision. If you want to buy an annuity and you're going to use the internet as your guide, it's going to be difficult. Yes.
It goes back to just comfortability, finding a person that speaks your language, that and to your point, like a lot of times when we run that diagnostic, like you might be doing a really good job at the one thing you think is the only thing to do, right? Save and invest, and it's like now it almost like brings me to the, to the to an oldie but a goodie song
All
here,
right.
Derek. This is going to blow your mind. You may have heard of Mo Money, Mo Problems.
Yes, I have. Yeah.
This is from the late 90s. This is an artist by the name of Notorious B.I.G.
Yeah.
But a lot
stuff.
of times, like when you've done so well and you've built this nest egg, you create, unfortunately, like potential tax pitfalls, right? So you got to find that person that can help you weave through and navigate the system so that it doesn't turn into something worse than it needs to be.
Yep. And the last thing I will say is listen every once in a while. I've it is not a matter of choosing to work with us or not. There are some people who have been doing it for so long. And the word I get a lot is comfortable. I'm much more comfortable doing it this way, right? I've had a large number of horror stories. People staying in cash since 2010. Tons of examples of people just being in highly concentrated positions. 80-90% of their entire net worth into one stock. These are the things that we're talking about when it comes to a second opinion. So, if someone does give you that second opinion, take it to heart.
Absolutely. You got to kind of know your limitations, have a little bit of an open mind, and just because that, Apple stock you picked 10 years ago got you to where you are, it might be time to kind of, go into victory formation.
Exactly.
Right? Like you kind of spread things out now so that you can prevent a potential, drawdown on the one stock that got you there. Like now let's spread things out and make sure we don't lose the game.
Absolutely. Well, Dave, thanks so much for stepping in this week. Always appreciate having you on. And if you guys have any questions or comments, concerns, please hit us up. If you're looking for that second opinion, it's a good process, and we'll definitely give you some good information, even if that's all that you're looking for. That is totally cool. So, but thanks for listening. If you have any questions, hit us up at info@swpconnect.com, and we'll talk to you next week.
The opinions expressed in the podcast are for general informational purposes only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any investment, legal, financial, or tax strategy. It is only intended to provide education about the financial industry. Please consult a qualified professional about your individual needs.